There's a quiet kind of failure that destroys more dreams than fear ever will. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't even feel dangerous at first. It's called a 0 day, a day where you do nothing, absolutely nothing, that moves your life forward. You wake up, scroll through your phone, convince yourself you'll start tomorrow, and before you know it, tomorrow has turned into next week into next month, and suddenly you're staring in the mirror at someone who used to have goals. 0 days are comfortable, they feel safe, but over time, they drain you quietly, like a slow leak in a tire you never notice until it's too late. We all have them, but some people decide to break that cycle, not with giant steps, not with miracle routines, but with something smaller, simpler, and infinitely more powerful. They decide to have no 0 days. Chapter 1. How it starts. Let's be honest, life doesn't collapse in one big explosion. It fades slowly. The first time you skip the gym, nothing changes. The first time you ignore your reading habit, no one notices. The first time you silence your goals for comfort, it feels harmless. But habits, both good and bad, are like seeds. They grow quietly, and so missing 1 day becomes missing 2. A skipped morning turns into a lazy week, and soon you're not just taking a break. You've built a lifestyle around avoidance. The no 0 days habit begins right here, in the smallest decision possible. It's a rebellion against the comfort that's killing your growth. It's not about being perfect. It's about refusing to surrender to nothingness. Chapter 2. The Rule. The rule is beautifully simple. Every single day, do something that pushes you forward. Not everything, not perfection, just something. If you want to write a book, write 1 sentence. If you want to get fit, do 1 push-up. If you want to start a business, read 1 page that teaches you something new. If you're broken, take 1 deep breath, 1 walk, 1 honest thought about what's next. That's it, because the moment you do something, anything, you break the cycle of 0. You send a message to your brain, we're not quitting today. And that message compounds. Like a snowball, small actions gather momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. And identity changes everything. You stop being the person who wants to change and start becoming the person who does. Chapter 3. The Science Behind Small Steps. Why does this tiny habit work so well? Because your brain loves progress, even microscopic progress. When you take action, even small action, your brain releases dopamine, the reward chemical. But unlike empty dopamine from scrolling or gaming, this one feels different. It's the dopamine of control. Each time you take 1 small action, you tell your subconscious, I'm capable of movement. And that changes how your brain views challenges. What once looked impossible now looks manageable because you've proved you can start. That's the secret behind every transformation. You don't leap mountains, you climb them, 1 deliberate step at a time. Chapter 4. The Enemy of Progress. But here's the catch. Your brain doesn't want change. It wants comfort. That's why every time you try to start something new, you hear that whisper in your head. You can start tomorrow. It's not the right time. You're too tired. That voice is your resistance. And resistance is clever. It doesn't need to stop you completely. It just needs to slow you down long enough that you never start. That's why no 0 days works, because it's too small for resistance to fight. Your mind can argue against a 2-hour workout, but it can't argue against 1 push-up. It can't justify 0 effort when 1 minute will do. And once you start, momentum takes over. Action destroys hesitation. That's the quiet psychology behind greatness. Start small enough that failure has no room to breathe. Chapter 5. The Compounding Effect. Think of progress like interest in a savings account. You don't notice much at first, but one day the numbers suddenly double and then triple because of compound growth. Habits work the same way. If you get 1% better every day, in 1 year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. Not 37%, 37 times. That's how massive change hides behind tiny consistency. 1 day of effort feels useless. 10 days feels uncertain, but 100 days, you're not the same person anymore. No 0 days isn't about results. It's about becoming the kind of person who keeps going, no matter how small the step. Na Sadrit Sadr. Chapter 6. The Emotional Shift. Here's something most people never realize. When you keep promises to yourself, even tiny ones, you rebuild self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of self-respect. When you do what you said you'd do, even one small thing, you begin to like the person in the mirror again. You start believing in your own word. And when you believe yourself, you stop needing validation from everyone else. That's when discipline turns into freedom. You no longer chase motivation, you create it. That's what No 0 Days really means. Not just doing more, but becoming whole again. Chapter 7. How to start. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a small one. Here's how you start right now. 1. Pick one area of your life. Health, focus, learning, or relationships. 2. Set a ridiculously small goal. 1 action per day. So small, you can't fail. 3. Track it. Write it down or mark an X on a calendar. Watch the chain grow. 4. Forgive quickly. If you slip, get back the next day. Don't restart, just continue. 5. Reflect weekly. Notice the small changes in energy, focus, and confidence. In a month, you won't need reminders. In 3 months, you won't even recognize your old self. You'll be too busy becoming someone new. Chapter 8. The Emotional Truth. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They chase impossible bursts of motivation, new diets, 5 a.m. routines, 30-day transformations, and when they can't sustain them, they quit. The truth is, motivation fades. Willpower burns out. But systems, tiny, repeatable systems, endure. The No 0 Days habit is a system. It's the simplest discipline on earth. Do one thing every day that makes you 1% better. And here's the beauty. You don't even have to believe in yourself right now. You just have to act like you do, once a day. Belief will follow action. Confidence will follow consistency. And one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up and realize you're living the life you once dreamed of. Chapter 9. The Reset Moment. Imagine this. You're standing at the end of a long road. Behind you are hundreds of 0 days, missed chances, abandoned plans, half-finished dreams. In front of you is just one small step. You can't undo the past. You can't jump to the finish, but you can take that one step. And that's how everything begins again. You don't rebuild your life in one big move. You rebuild it in moments, tiny choices, repeated daily until they become your new identity. This is your reset moment, not next Monday, not next year, right now, because the longer you wait, the heavier the regret becomes. Start small, stay small, and let small grow unstoppable. Chapter 10. The Transformation. Weeks pass. You don't see much change, just faint improvements. Your body feels lighter. Your thoughts feel clearer. Your nights end with peace instead of guilt. Then, something subtle happens. You stop needing reminders. You stop negotiating with your mind. You simply do. And in that quiet doing, you rediscover power, the kind of power no one can take from you. The people around you notice it too, not because you brag, but because you've changed energy. You move differently, speak differently. You've become disciplined, and discipline radiates. That's what this habit creates. Not quick wins, but quiet, irreversible evolution. Chapter 11. The Philosophy of No 0 Days. This habit is more than a routine. It's a mindset, a personal philosophy of never surrendering to stagnation. It teaches you that every moment matters, that change doesn't come from motivation, it comes from movement. It's the understanding that one small act is better than perfect plans, progress beats potential, and consistency will always outlive talent. Once you embrace this, life becomes simpler. Every day is either a step forward or a pause, but never nothing. You realize control was never about time or luck. It was always about choice. Chapter 12. Closing Reflection. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to end this day with one small victory. Read one page. Stretch for 5 minutes. Write a single sentence. Tell someone you love them. That's how you win. That's how you rebuild your momentum. That's how you prove to yourself that you're not stuck. You're starting again. The No 0 Days habit isn't glamorous. It won't get millions of likes, but it will build something stronger, a version of you that refuses to stay still. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question: greater than did I move forward today? If the answer is yes, even by 1 inch, then you've already won. Because in a world full of 0 days, you chose to create something. And that's how everything changes. Closing line. For narration. You don't have to do it all. You just have to do something. No more 0 days. Ever again.